In the first video, we saw how India's economy has been on a tear in recent decades. GDP growth has averaged 6.3% per year in the 1990s and 2000s, and the poverty rate has fallen from 50% to 34%. India has been on a roll in recent years, with its economy growing at a rapid pace. This has led to some people calling India the next superpower. But what are the factors behind India's economic power? And what challenges does it face? Watch the video to find out the answer. The year was 2008. The world was in the midst of the Great Recession, and India was no exception. The stock market had crashed, businesses were failing, and people were losing their jobs. The Indian government knew that they had to do something to help, so they announced a stimulus package worth billions of rupees. The stimulus package was supposed to help boost the economy and create jobs, but it didn't quite work out that way. Instead, it caused inflation to go up, the rupee to lose value, and the people to get angry. In fact, the stimulus package was so unpopular that it helped to cost the Indian government the 2014 elections. The people had had enough of the government spending spree, and they voted them out of office. So what went wrong? Well, there are a few reasons. First, the stimulus package was too big. The government injected billions of rupees into the economy, but it really didn't do anything to help the people who needed it most. Instead, it just went to the rich and powerful. Then, the stimulus package was poorly timed. The government announced it at the height of the recession when people were already feeling scared and uncertain. This made people even more anxious, and it led to a decline in consumer spending. Finally, the stimulus package was not well targeted. The government spent a lot of money on infrastructure projects, but these projects didn't create many jobs. Instead, they just helped to enrich the construction companies that were awarded the contracts. In 2016, Prime Minister Narendra Modi announced demonetization, which shook the country and caused a lot of chaos. The stock market reacted negatively, crashing more than 1,680 points, and the Nifty plunging by over 540 points. But just months later, when the Rajya Sabha passed the GST bill, the stock market didn't react much. It just remained mostly flat on the upper side. Why did the stock market react so differently to demonetization and GST? Simply saying, demonetization was a bad joke and GST was a good joke. Demonetization was unexpected, it didn't make sense, and it didn't really have a punchline. So of course the stock market reacted negatively. GST, on the other hand, was well planned, it made sense, and it had a punchline. So of course the stock market reacted positively. The coronavirus pandemic has had a devastating effect on the Indian economy, but the stock market has been on a tear in recent months. The Sensex, India's benchmark stock index, touched an all-time high of 55,000 in July 2021 and is still going strong. This is in stark contrast to the rest of the economy, which is still struggling to recover from the pandemic. Why is the stock market so resilient? Actually, the stock market is a lot like a comedian. It needs a good punchline to succeed. The pandemic was a great setup for a punchline. It was unexpected, it didn't make sense, and it was a disaster. But the government stimulus package and the vaccination drive were the perfect punchlines. They gave investors hope that the pandemic would eventually end and that the Indian economy would recover. So the next time you're feeling down about the pandemic, just remember the stock market. It's a reminder that even in the darkest of times, there is always hope for a good punchline. India is a country with a lot of economic power. It has a large and growing population, a favorable investment climate, and a focus on innovation. But it also has some challenges like underdeveloped infrastructure, inequality, and corruption. India has been on a roll in recent years, with its economy growing at a rapid pace. This has led to some people calling India the next superpower. But what are the factors behind India's economic power, and what challenges does it face? Why is India's economy growing so fast? Because it has a lot of young people who are always asking why not. India's young and growing population is a major asset. The median age in India is just 28 years old, which means that the country has a large pool of young workers who are entering the workforce and contributing to economic growth. These young workers are often very motivated and eager to learn new things, which helps drive innovation in a number of sectors. India's young people are also not afraid to ask questions. They are always looking for new ways to improve things, and they are not afraid to challenge the status quo. The middle class in India is expanding quickly as well. As a result, consumers have a greater need for a variety of products and services, boosting several industries. The rising purchasing power of consumers has increased the demand for food, driving investment in the agricultural industry. Investment in the educational industry is a direct result of the middle class's demands for more and better education. India's business climate has also improved greatly in recent years. Because of this, international investors are showing increasing interest in establishing themselves in the Indian market. The Indian government, for instance, has simplified the licensing and permission processes for firms and cut back on bureaucratic red tape. The amount of money India spends on R&D is also rising. Several industries are benefiting from this, including healthcare, manufacturing, and software. To recruit and sustain new businesses, the government of India, for instance, has established a number of research parks and incubators. India has also made significant investments in technological infrastructure. This is a big contributor to economic growth since it makes it simpler for companies to function and for individuals to go about. Another strength of India's economy is its focus on innovation. India is home to several startups and tech companies that are making waves in the global market. For example, India is a leader in the development of mobile apps and software. If you want to learn more about global economics, be sure to subscribe to my channel. I'll be posting more videos about the global economy in the future. In the meantime, let's get back into the story. What do you think will happen next? Will India be able to overcome the challenges of corruption and climate change? Stay tuned to find out. While these are encouraging signs, India's economic progress is still threatened by other challenges. Inequality, corruption, and the environment all fall within this category. There are a few challenges that the country needs to address to reach its full potential. There are an unusually big number of extremely poor people compared to the wealthy in India. This kind of inequality can put a damper on the economy. If the impoverished cannot afford products and services, for instance, demand decreases. A major challenge is corruption. Businesses have to pay bribes to government officials in order to get things done, which can really add to their costs. This is like a game of Monopoly, where everyone is trying to cheat each other. But instead of houses and hotels, they're building palaces and mansions. Another challenge is climate change. India is a very agricultural country, and climate change is expected to cause droughts, floods, and other natural disasters. This could really hurt the economy. It's like a game of Jenga, where the country is trying to balance on a stack of blocks, and climate change is knocking the blocks out from underneath. But instead of wooden blocks, the blocks are made from rice paddies and sugarcane fields. India is a country with a lot of potential, and I think it's going to be a major economic power in coming years. But it needs to be careful not to make any mistakes, because corruption and climate change are like two giant elephants that could knock India down if it's not careful. So India needs to move its pieces carefully and strategically. It needs to make sure that it is not getting too greedy and that it is not taking too many risks. If it does, it could end up getting trampled by the elephants. So what does the future hold for India's economy? It's hard to say for sure, but one thing is for sure. India is a country with a lot of potential. If India can work hard to overcome its challenges, it has the potential to achieve great things. India is like an elephant. It's big, it's strong, and it's growing, but it's also a little clumsy. It can sometimes trip over its own feet, and it's not always the easiest animal to manage. But India is also a very determined elephant. It's not going to let anything stand in its way. It's going to keep growing and growing, and one day it's going to be the biggest elephant in the world. Thanks for watching. If you are interested in more content about the global economy, watch our other videos.